Russian Black Sea Naval Headquarters in Sevastopol was attacked by Ukraine using a suicide drone. It was revealed that the drone was purchased from Chinese commerce giant Alibaba for just $8,000. A video showed smoke coming from the area in Sevastopol where the Black Sea Fleet is stationed. The Ukrainian Special Operation Forces flew the drone that had been modified with a large warhead and made a direct hit on the building's roof. Just as a plume of smoke ascended from the fleet's command center, the twin-tail boom fixed-wing drone was flying overhead. The Russian officials downplayed the attack and stated that the drone was shot down and there were no casualties on site. A drone has at least once carried out a one-way kamikaze strike on a Russian target hidden behind enemy lines. At the time, a refinery in the Rostov region of Russia, close to the Ukrainian border, was hit with what looked like a modified and weaponized drone. A day after the Sevastopol attack, the Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Lieutenant General Igor Konashenkov said Russian air defense systems had destroyed 9 Ukrainian drones and intercepted 1 missile fired from the Alka multiple rocket launchers. The recently employed drone is a fixed-wing unmanned aircraft made in China that can transport a substantial payload over long distances, transforming it into a slow cruise missile. These commercial drones, which cost between $5,000 and $10,000, have been modified by Ukraine to work as kamikaze drones. The role of these air defenses has come under the scanner after repeated Ukrainian attacks inside Russian territory. A major strike on Sakei Air Base in Crimea earlier obliterated many Russian naval fighter jets. In addition, Russia also claimed to shoot down a drone at nearby Belbek Air Base. More recently, a Russian air base and an ammunition store on the Russian-held peninsula went up in flames. Against these Ukrainian offensives, the pattern indicates that the Russian-occupied territory of Crimea, which was earlier out of bounds for Ukraine, is the new target of choice. And in the absence of long-range missiles, the Ukrainians use weaponized drones. Experts such as Justin Bronk from the Royal United Services Institute think tank suggest the drones in some of the attacks could have been a commercially available Chinese-made model, the $9,500 Mugen 5, or a copy of it. It has a flying time of up to 7 hours, the manufacturers say, and a top speed of 150 kilometers and could have been adapted to carry an improvised warhead. The payload, the manufacturers say, is 15 to 20 kilograms. The drone may also have been simply engaged in reconnaissance, although the growing evidence of a pattern of drone strikes deep behind the front line in Crimea and elsewhere suggests something different. Russia said the same naval base was hit by a drone strike at the end of July, wounding 5 people, making the fact that defenses were not tightened all the more remarkable. Ironically, a Chinese drone was used to hit a Russian target, given the bonhomie between Beijing and Moscow. Beijing has silently backed Moscow's muscular policy in Ukraine and has increased the volume of oil it imports from Moscow amid the pressure of sanctions. In recent months, Ukraine accused the world's leading drone maker company of letting Russia target Ukraine with missiles using DJI drone technology. Ukrainian Vice Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov said, "This drone company products that are helping Russia to kill the Ukrainians. Russia must stop using it." Ukraine appealed to a Chinese maker of civilian drones to block what the Ukrainian government says is their use by the Russian army to target missile attacks. Since Russia's invasion of his country, Ukraine Deputy Prime Minister Mikhailo Fedorov has written scores of letters to tech companies urging them to quit doing business with what he calls the Kremlin war machine. Among the latest targets is Chinese drone supplier DJI. Both Ukrainian and Russian militaries have been using DJI's technology, according to various social media posts and reports, even though DJI says its drones are for hobbyists, police and first responders, not for helping wage war. Fedorov and Ukraine are determined to suck the $15 billion DJI into the European conflict. Fedorov claimed on Twitter that Russia was using DJI products in order to navigate their missiles. Fedorov raised particular concerns about DJI's drone detector tool Aeroscope, which he said Russia was deploying to identify Ukraine's DJI drones from a range of about 30 miles. Fedorov has mounted a mostly successful campaign urging tech companies around the world to isolate Russia. He's found a receptive audience among most of the biggest companies in the US and Europe, but a bigger challenge awaits in China, which is trying to walk a tightrope between supporting Russia and staying in the good graces of the pro-Ukraine US and its allies. In a letter to DJI's CEO and billionaire founder Frank Wong, Fedorov demanded DJI cut off drones in Ukraine that weren't purchased and registered there, and to provide information on all DJI unmanned aircraft in the country, including where and when they were activated. He then asked whether DJI had already taken some action to prevent Ukrainians from using its technologies, following reports of technical issues in the besieged country. Fedorov asked Wong whether he wanted DJI to be a partner in murder. He wrote, "Block your products that are helping Russia to kill the Ukrainians." In response, DJI said its products, including Aeroscope, didn't meet military specifications and were meant for consumers. DJI said on Twitter, "The visibility given by Aeroscope and future remote ID requirements is one more reason why using them for military missions is inappropriate." Remote ID, as defined by DJI, is a requirement that means DJI devices will transmit a signal that acts as an electronic license plate system for drones, allowing authorities to identify who is flying them. Remote ID was introduced to assuage concerns by the U.S. Federal Aviation Authority, and won't be required until September 2023. Its implementation has had nothing to do with Ukraine. Similar European requirements are not in force either. The suggestion that no DJI tech was designed for military use was understandable, but not convincing. Even if the company doesn't openly market to armed forces, DJI knows its creations are often adapted for military use. Forbes has reviewed contracts that show the DJI technology, including Aeroscope, has been used in both government and military applications in the U.S. For instance, contract details obtained through the Freedom of Information Act show that Aeroscope was adapted by the U.S. Customs and Border Protection via contractor Aerial Armor to extend the range and monitor DJI drone activities on the southern border of the United States. The American Army used the same contractor in 2020 for a $50,000 Aeroscope order, and in 2021 the Army purchased $120,000 in DJI Aeroscope technology through a Texas-based contractor. These contracts were signed despite an increasing antipathy towards government use of Chinese technology and a ban on the American companies exporting to the drone manufacturer. A DJI spokesperson wouldn't comment beyond the statement the company provided on Twitter. Aerial Armor didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. DJI finds itself in an awkward position in the war. China has refused to decry Russia's unprovoked assault on Ukraine, including its shelling of hospitals and apartment buildings. In some cases, China has filtered its reporting of the war through the Kremlin's lens. It's highly unlikely that Wang, a secretive CEO worth $4.8 billion, will cut off sales to Russia, a step that would certainly be seen as flouting Beijing's economic ties with Moscow.